Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Now I'm joined with a fellow nomad, Tobi Whitney. Tobi, thanks for joining me today.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. I always love talking to people who are out there living their best life on the road. And we actually have another connection through baseball and specifically through the Boston Red Sox because we're both Sox fans. And we met virtually several years ago through my involvement with women's baseball. And then when I found out you guys were hitting the road, it kind of just created another connection. So we've been talking about getting you on the show here for a while, and here we are now, ready to go. But before we get started in the conversation, just take a few minutes to introduce yourself. Who is Tobi today?
Who is Tobi today? Well, my husband and I, we've been on the road for about 16 months in a Winnebago micro mini, and we toured all around the country. And now we're getting ready for plan B, which is to go off to Italy and live there for 6 months or more. And my baseball connection, I'm a wicked Red Sox fan. And I wear number 27 in honor of Carlton Fisk. And I've been a part of Red Sox Nation for a long time. Found out about the women's Red Sox fantasy camp. Started playing with them. And just been enjoying life to the fullest as best as I can.
I love it. I love it. So let's we'll talk about the RV lifestyle first. You guys have been doing it for 16 months. Sandy and I are approaching 4 years in August, and we
Oh,
love it. And when I saw your Facebook post, when you talked about that you guys were gonna go out on this journey, I was like, that's cool. And unfortunately, we never got to connect on the road. We came so close in St. Augustine. You guys were arriving the day we were leaving, but
uh,
nonetheless, we were able to connect here through Zoom. But tell me a little bit about what led you guys to make the decision to sell everything and go out in a camper and start living this lifestyle.
well, many years ago, back in 2007, I actually got injured and I couldn't work. I was a flight attendant. And my husband and I, we always dreamt about, taking a long trip across country. So we used that opportunity where I couldn't work to go on a 6 month road trip in our Prius, and we tented and we stayed with friends and family along the way. Every once in a while, we might get a motel room or something. So once when we were successful at that, and we knew that this is something we wanted to do longer term, we put the wheels in motion to look into the opportunity to retire earlier and to hit the road at some point. And then when COVID happened and everything kind of stopped, and we just kind of looked into it further and figured out that we could do it sooner than what we thought. So we did.
I love it. I love it. Had you guys ever, other than the Prius road trip, have you guys, ever gone RV camping prior to living in an RV?
I've never camped before in my life.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would like it. You hear about, doing Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever, and I was never involved in that. Jeff did Boy Scouts, so he knew a little bit about camping. His father was a hunter, and he was, would hunt in the woods. They had a cabin. So I don't know. He just suggested it one year, and we did some practice runs with the tent. And I really liked it. I liked the lifestyle. People are so friendly and
Yeah.
helpful, and it's just a simple way to live. And yeah, and it just grew from there. It was great.
Yeah. I love that. And we're the same way. The first time I ever drove an RV was the day I drove this thing off the lot.
Oh my
It's
God.
just, and I mean, I did some, tent camping when I was a kid as part of, like our church youth group and, stuff like that, but nothing, nothing long term, nothing like that. And yeah, we just, and my wife the same way. I mean, she'd never, camped in an RV or anything like that. And, so, I didn't know the difference between a black tank and a gray tank at that time when we first started, and it's like, but I think if you're determined, you just take that leap and
Yeah.
you learn as you go. And like you
Yep.
mentioned about the community, there's so many awesome people in this whole, camping RV community that if you do run into a problem and you're in a campground, there's always somebody there who's willing to help you out and figure it
Definitely.
out.
Yes. That in
Um,
fact happened to us when we were in Buchanan, Virginia. We had a problem with our tank. It fell off the clips, and the guy that was next to us, Jeff, would happen to be telling him about our problems, and he's like, I know an excellent RV repairman. And just like, oh, great. Who would that be? He goes, that would be me. And he ended up telling Jeff what to get. He sat underneath our camper for an hour, fixing it, drilling holes and whatnot. And then we asked him, we got to pay him something for his time. Absolutely not. If we like you, we'll do anything for you. And if we don't like you, we'll do anything to you. And it was just insane, like so super nice. You couldn't ask for anything better than it. Gives you goosebumps. It's like, how can people be this nice?
yeah,
You're not used to it.
yeah, yeah. It really is. I mean, it's really blown us away. Just the way that community is, and we were very involved in our community at home, in Pennsylvania before we started traveling. But it's nothing like this RV community, and the people we met. We do a lot of volunteer work for an organization called A Year to Volunteer. So we've met a bunch of people, through our volunteer work, and it's cool seeing their social media posts and where they are. And then again, when our paths are going to are going to cross again, like even now, I posted something about us, taking a little tour of downtown Galveston yesterday, and one of our friends chimed in. They're like, "Hey, we're going to be in Galveston, in early March. Are you guys still going to be around?" And we're like, "Yeah, actually, we will be," which is again very rare for us because we are normally on the move. So we're going to, make sure we connect with them. We've had opportunities when we were back visiting family in Pennsylvania where some of our friends were coming through and we got together with them. So it's just such a cool community. And, I can't say enough about the people we've met on this journey.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just
yeah,
so cool. And
it's
people ask
amazing.
us all the time, like, what's your favorite place been? And we can't name it. I don't know if you guys
You
can. I mean,
can't.
how it's like you come up with this list of like the top five, and then you're like,
Yeah.
oh wait, but this should probably be in the top five, but oh maybe this should too. So it's like I don't think people appreciate how beautiful our
Yeah.
country is, you know?
and and there's different categories, like this place might have the best view, or this place, you might have the best beer, or this place might, the people, or the campground. So you can't really come up with a really good list. I mean, all the national parks are just amazing.
Incredible. Incredible.
Incredible.
That is a hidden gem of our country. I don't think
Yeah.
a lot of people really appreciate how great our national park system
Yeah.
is. Um,
The only thing I would have done different, if I had to say something, would be if you're doing the national parks on the northern part of the states, go from the east to the west, because they get better as you
hmm,
go in that direction.
yeah,
We started off at the best ones of what we thought, and then they get a little bit less and less grand, so to speak.
right.
So I kind of had to remind myself, okay, well, what's unique about this place? What is the awe-inspiring thing? Because you can't get the same emotion from like Yellowstone, the Grand Prismatic. I mean, that is just amazing. Banff and Jasper up in Canada, amazing. The glaciers. So, and then we go east. We went to the Badlands and Glacier National Park and all that. So, but they still were great. But I don't know. I think I would have preferred going the other direction because it
Right.
just kept getting better and better.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're doing I told you we're taking a trip to Alaska this summer, and we'll stop in Banff and Jasper. We just got our reservations
Definitely.
a couple weeks ago, and I can't wait. I mean, I absolutely
Oh my
can't wait.
God, you are gonna. And just remember that it's so light there late. I mean, 11 p.m. So our big thing is we tend to be late people. So we would let everybody go in the morning and the early afternoon. We would head out at like 2 or 3 p.m., still have 8 hours of
Yeah.
light. And things become free after 4 p.m. because the masses are gone. You didn't
Right.
have to pay for parking in a lot of places. And it was empty. We almost had the whole park to ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend doing. Let everybody else go in the morning. Go later.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's gonna be one of the things I think that will blow me away the most is just how daylighted it, like how long
Yeah.
the daylight is. Like I'm,
Oh man,
you
it's
know,
crazy.
yeah,
I loved it though. Yeah, 11 p.m. is it's just that and the sun's setting. It's crazy.
it's amazing. What
But
were,
don't go there in the winter, right?
yeah, yeah, definitely don't want to be there in the winter. Um, what were maybe some of your biggest surprises about life on the road?
My biggest surprises, I guess for me personally, was just being able to adapt. You know, every time we pull up to a new place, a new campground, first thing we do is set up, and then we would take the lay of the land, so to speak. I put my cat in the stroller, and we would walk all around the campground, look at all the amenities. You know, are the showers good? If they're not, is there a Planet Fitness nearby? I have a membership. I can always shower there. You know, it's like just making sure that all of our needs are going to be met while the time is spent there. And then just figuring out what to do. You know, Jeff is a great researcher. I'm so fortunate to have him by my side because he likes to figure out all the stuff that we should do, focus on, and just try to plan it out that we're not running ragged, but yet trying to see as much as we can while we're there. So that was it for me, is just being able to adapt to what's next.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I said, it's just such an amazing lifestyle. Now, you guys also have a website and a blog, the Retired Nomads, I believe. Do I have that
Yeah.
correct? What made you guys want to, kind of share your journey, with your friends and family?
Well, I've always been, I don't know, like a journaler. Like when I became a flight attendant, I was journaling my experiences doing that. I did it for the first couple of years and then I kind of tailed off after a while. And then the same thing with the fantasy camps. I started going to fantasy camp back in 2000. I made a big journal about that. And every year after that, I kept doing it, making picture books and, the digital books now. So I always like to journal. So by doing it on the road, it's like you can't. When we were on the 6 month trip, we did it, and you can't remember everything. So you have to write things down,
Right.
otherwise it's just a blur. So, but then after about a year, we both were like kind of burnt out from doing it because it is a lot of work, especially where we were on the road like every 3 or 4 days, maybe seven max. So it was a lot to keep up, and we were
Right.
doing a lot during that time. We
Yeah.
weren't having any down days that we weren't just staying in the camper. So, but I will be starting up again when we go to Italy, which is the next stop on our list.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so cool. And you know, it seems like, like us, you guys were on the move quite a bit. I mean, we know, like I said before we started recording, where we're at now in Galveston, we'll be here for a little bit over a month till it's all said and done. And that is very uncommon for us. I mean, normally our longest stays in any spot was when we did a 2 week volunteer project, and then we were
Yeah.
off again. Other than that, if we were in a campground for a week, it was rare, because
Yeah.
we just, for me, and again, I don't know if this is just something that's in my blood because my dad was an over the road truck driver, and as you know, my mom did her own traveling, but like I love the drive. Like I just really love the drive. And I love when we get the opportunity to get off an interstate and onto some secondary road because you
Yes.
just, and when we've done that so many times, like we've just stumbled across this hidden gem that we weren't planning to
Definitely.
get there, and it's like, hey, look at this little park or this little restaurant or whatever it
No.
is, and you roll in there and you just have the time of your life, and you would have never found it if you would have stayed on
Right.
I-10 or I-35 or whatever it might be. So yeah, for me, I really do love being on the move. So I'm a little nervous right now with us, going to be in this one spot for so long, to see how we'll adapt if we don't start getting stir crazy toward the end.
Right.
But there's so many things to do in Galveston. I'm sure that's not going to be the case. But
Sure.
um,
Sure.
you've traveled. You mentioned that you were a flight attendant, so I mean you've traveled your entire life. Obviously not in an
Yeah.
RV, but you know what? I mean, obviously there's a lot of differences between flight travel and
Yeah.
ground travel. So just tell me a little bit about did being a flight attendant help you prepare for the RV journey or hurt you preparing for the RV journey?
I think being a flight attendant, they figure out everything for you. First of all, it's like, where you're staying, what your trip is, you pick and choose what trips you want. Hopefully, you're lucky to do that. But what it did for me is it just made me so much more aware of the world out there. Every time I landed, I wasn't your typical slam clicker, they called it. Get to the hotel, slam the door, and click the lock. I was one that hit the ground running, put my stuff down, go out, Google what's to do in the area. I look for my favorite things. I like butterfly parks, coffee, brewery, whatever, and just find what's in the area. And it could be a small town, small city, Boise, Idaho, to San Francisco, whatever. But and if the other flight attendants want to come, great. They don't. They don't. And I always check to see if there's a baseball game going on. That was number one. Whether it was pro, minor, I didn't care. Go to the local stadium, go check it out. So yeah, and then just flying in general, having those passes to go anywhere. I mean, we didn't take advantage of it nearly as much as some of my friends did because my husband still had a full-time job and you're somewhat limited. But now that we're done, I'm retired. He's pretty much retired. Our goal was to do the US first, which we did, and now we want to go internationally and really start to enjoy the benefits of being a retired flight attendant.
I love that. I love that. So I think earlier in our conversation you mentioned the RV nomad lifestyle was Jeff's idea. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So did it take a lot for him to convince you of it, or did you buy in
No
pretty quick?
way.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
Especially once after we did that 6 month road trip and we both loved it. We're like, okay, next time we're going to get something a little bit bigger. And when we were first looking to, talking about doing this, we're like, okay, well, what kind of a camper do we want to get? And originally he was looking, because we knew we didn't want a tent again. Those days are over. So we're looking at like a teardrop tent, campers and, the small ones that just basically house the bed, maybe have the kitchen out the back. And I'm thinking, if we're doing this long term, I think I want a kitchen inside, rain, whatever, crazy weather it happens to find us no matter where we go. So we started out in a 15-foot river retro and we used it the summer before we left, did a few like little trips up to Cooperstown and up to Maine, whatever, just get the feel of it. And we thought it was going to be fine. But after a month being on it in the road, Jeff was like, oh no, we need something a little bit bigger
Yeah.
because it didn't even have a slide and there was no room to walk around in it. We're constantly bumping into each other. So we did a little research and Jeff found the micro mini in North Carolina. So we had to trade out the truck. We had a Kia Sorento. So we traded that out for the truck first in Virginia. And then when we got to North Carolina, we traded out the River Retro for the Micro Mini, the Winnebago. So yeah, so we did that on the road and that was interesting.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
All
So
of our stuff was on a picnic table at the campground. We had to tell the host, we're not deserting it. We're getting a new camper.
right.
Don't let anybody touch our stuff. It was like everything that
That's
we
funny.
owned was on that picnic table, and underneath it covered by a tarp. I was like, wow, this is crazy.
That's so funny. Yeah. So for us, it was my idea, and my wife thought I was completely out of my mind when I first suggested it to her. And then she slowly, reluctantly came around. And it's funny where you said about, you know, the pre-experience, is really what, you know, made you kind of be on board with it. And in so we started in August of 2020. So we'd talked about it and we knew we were going to do it throughout 2019. And then in the fall of 2019, we took a road trip just down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and back to see U.S. women's national team soccer game. And on the way back, we didn't go up 81. We got on the Blue Ridge Parkway and went up the whole
Mm.
Blue Ridge Parkway and like stopped at every single lookout that there was and that sort of thing. And I think after that is when she was absolutely 100% bought into the idea, like just that experience. And then ironically, our first trip, once we hit the road, was doing the entire Blue Ridge Parkway from Virginia down to Cherokee, North Carolina. And again, it was so cool. And you talk to her now, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's best decision we ever made." So it's kind of funny to see how that evolution of how you buy into it. So, um, like I said in the beginning, we initially connected through baseball, and you talked a little bit about your flight attendance days where you'd go to try to find a ballpark and see a game. I mean, what's funny for us is I'll go to a ballpark even if there isn't a game. Like I have more pictures of empty ballparks on this journey
Yeah.
than anything else. Like we went to whatever Miller Park, whatever they call it now. I forget what it's called
Yeah.
anymore. I'll still call it Miller Park. We went there and took pictures of that. When we were in Austin, I went to the University of Texas Stadium, taking
Right.
pictures of the statue of Augie Garrido and pictures of an empty baseball field and stuff like that. And it's funny. I think I posted once. I'm like, I don't know if anybody else has more pictures of empty stadiums than I do, but it's still cool to me. But
Cool.
what was your initial connection to baseball?
Oh my God. Well, I guess just watching ball with my father, really. I mean, I was 7 during or 8 during the 75 World Series.
Okay.
And oh my God, that Fisk home run around the left field foul pole. And I always wore 27. I dressed as him as for Halloween that year. So they were in the World Series in October. So that October, I dressed him as a Halloween. I went to my first camp in 2000, and I got a chance to meet him. And I brought the picture with me, and I show it to him. And I got like this, made up uniform. They didn't have uniforms back then.
Right. Right.
At least if they did, we couldn't afford it. Handwritten Red Sox. I had this helmet that I got, I think from like Burger King. They had that special. I put 27 on the back. My sister put the eye black on. I had the white carpenter pants rolled up with the red socks. And he's looking at this picture and he's like, that's supposed to be me. And I got this big grin on my face. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I dressed as you for Halloween. He's like, that is pretty scary. And then he signed it. And it was just so cute. But I just always loved baseball. Of course, I played softball. And I just loved it. And then always been a member of Red Sox Nation because I never lived in Massachusetts after college. And so it was my way that I could at least listen to the games and heard about the women's camp. I was going to this week long, they called it a men's camp, but it wasn't men. They had a handful of women show up every year. And I, did that one for like 14 years, at least 12 years. And then the women's camp started in 2016. And I did that as a player for 5 years. And then I went as like a guest for the last 3. But oh my God, the camaraderie you get from those camps and the former pros. And there is nothing like if you ever wanted to be a baseball player, you got to go to one of these camps.
Yeah.
Nothing like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing, how the game sticks with us and how we think of our first memories. Cause, everybody always asks me, the guy who was, born and bred in Pennsylvania, how I became a lifelong Red Sox fan. And, similar to you, um, it was in the 70s. And, I actually, my brother had this book of all the ballparks. And like, I was just mesmerized with Fenway Park. And then the first little league team that I ever played on was the Red Sox. And it was
Ah,
like, I didn't even put two and two together. And my brother, who's 9 years older than me, said, that's the team that plays in Fenway Park. And so, like, from that point on, I was sold. So I literally fell in love with the stadium before the
ah,
team. But then when I
that was
found out that my
amazing.
first team I ever played on it was like fate. It's like, oh, well, I'm
Yeah.
definitely a Red Sox fan. And then, just everything, um, throughout the years of watching them and having them break our hearts for so
Oh my
long up
God.
until 2004. Like,
Oh my gosh.
I remember specifically we were actually on a tournament trip in Atlanta in 2003 when they lost to the
Mm.
Yankees, and I remember like a few minutes before um, Pedro came out of the game, a buddy of mine who's a Yankees fan sends me a text saying, "Hey, congratulations! Looks like your Sox are finally going to the series." And then next thing it all just unravels. I'm like that text cursed me.
I know. Oh my
um,
God. It's awful.
but then
Oh, it's
then
awful.
04 came around, and boy did the tables turn there, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
been
It was crazy. Oh my gosh. Just amazing. Nothing like it.
yeah,
Telling you.
it's incredible. And for anyone who hasn't been to a game at Fenway Park, like, you just, Red Sox
Yeah.
fan or not, like, it's just an experience you can't even put into words. It's
But I
just
ended up
amazing.
becoming an usher there in 2019 because I was living back in Massachusetts. And I'm like, if I'm moving from Vegas to go back to Massachusetts, I got to do something fun. Otherwise, I'm going to be miserable. So I applied and I got the job. And oh my God, to have a Red Sox email address. I mean, that was so cool.
Yeah,
And
no
then
doubt.
I had a locker in the staff room, and Fenway was my office. And it was like, oh my God, this is like the best thing ever. I'm getting paid to go to the games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So you'd mentioned that, obviously, um, as a young girl, you were, kind of turned toward softball because there were really no baseball
Yeah,
opportunities for girls at that time. Now seeing, stuff that's going on with, not just the Red Sox women's fantasy camp, but what Baseball for All is doing with these, all girls tournaments. How important do you think that is? Because I hate the people who are like, well, no, baseball's for boys and softball's for girls. And I'm like,
it's
look, it's not the
frustrating.
same. It's not the same game, and it's not anything against the game of softball. Like, I love
Right,
softball and baseball, but they're just two different games.
right.
And
Yeah,
it always drove me crazy as to why there was this separation that, baseball was for men. And
yeah.
in 94, I coached a team that played against the Silver Bullets. And that was
Mm,
really where I kind of, started questioning, well, why is baseball a boys club? I don't understand it, but I digress with the question. So, for you now, to see these opportunities for
I
young ladies
know.
to play, I mean, what's that do for
I,
you to see that the
I
doors are
think it's
finally opening?
awesome. I think it's awesome. I'm a little bit envious because I always said I was either born too early or too late. I could have played, if I was born earlier, I could have played with the League of Her Own. If I was born later, I'd be able to play now. So I was born in the time frame that there really wasn't any opportunities. And I found out later on, because I grew up in a small town, Swampscott, Massachusetts, and I didn't know that they allowed girls to play Little League Baseball. I didn't find out until I merged into the junior high and then they started playing we started playing softball, and there was a gal that played Little League baseball. And I was like, I went home to my father. I'm like, why didn't you sign me up for Little League? But even though I showed like I was definitely a tomboy growing up, I was always playing kickball. I was playing ice hockey with the guys, pond hockey, whatever I could play sports wise, I was in on it. But my father never thought to sign me up for Little League. So it wasn't until softball started that he got me involved in softball, and I was 11. So if I started younger, I'd like to think I would, and I played with the boys, I probably would have been even that much better. Who knows? I could have gotten, a scholarship for college or something, but it just didn't, it never came to. So I'm thrilled for these girls, women, to have these opportunities to play the game that they want to play, and it doesn't make sense that business owners want to exclude half the society.
Yeah.
They could be making so much more money, making sure that women have opportunities to play.
Right.
Makes no sense to me. I don't
Yeah.
get it, but it's being worked on. I don't think it's as fast as what it could be.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely baby steps, but at least there are some steps in the right
Yeah.
direction. So, let's talk a little bit about, and you touched on it a little bit, but let's go into some more detail about your experience at, women's fantasy camp, and just talking about you know, the sisterhood that gets built at that camp. Because again, I'm kind of an outsider, being a male around all these females in this community. But anytime I get, you know, two or three of you guys together, like you just see how tight that bond is. So, just
Yeah.
talk a little bit about, what that was, like for you to get there and, be on, first of all, a pristine field, and, with all these other women playing the game of baseball that you guys all loved.
I'm telling you, first of all, I want to say you are not an outsider. Anybody that is pro women playing baseball is not an outsider. So don't ever consider yourself that. Um, I don't know. I just think that the whole I played with the boys, the guys for years. I played at, the other fantasy camp, and then I played at this other group. This is called Play at the Plate, and they play at major league ballparks, minor league ballparks. So I've had like major league ballpark experience before the women's camp came about. I played at Fenway. I played at PNC Park, Progressive Field, Chase Field. So I've had all that. But when the Red Sox said that they were going to have an all female camp, I couldn't wait to sign up for it, to play with women that have the same passion as me. They might not be the greatest player, whatever, but they have the passion and they want to learn. And oh my God, it's just so amazing to have that feeling of that connectiveness with a group of people. I can't even explain it, because with playing with the guys, they're fine with me because I can play. If I couldn't play, it wouldn't be the same. So they treated me more as a player than as a female playing ball. So that was great. But the women, I don't know. And then to be able to play at JetBlue Park, I never had that opportunity before. And it, brand new stadium, and that's where the current players are playing. Oh my God, it's just amazing. It was really a dream come true. See your name up on the scoreboard, and to think of all the legends that played there. Nothing like it. Nothing like it.
Yeah. And just, you know, the friendships that have stuck, I mean, 2016, that's, believe it or not, it's crazy to think that was 8 years ago. Like initially you think 2016 is just, just a few years ago.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
know. It's
so
8 years.
eight years, you've still got some of these tight bonds and tight friendships with,
Yeah.
you know, the women that you played there with. I mean, what is that like? Just that bond?
Yeah, well, we have Facebook pages. We have a Facebook page for the women's camp in general. And then there's always these offshoots of the current team that you were on. They would create a Facebook page so you guys can stay in touch with each other. But whenever something good or bad happens to one of us, we are all there for each other. Whether it's, you had your first child, or, maybe there was a death in the family. It could be anything in between, and we are there for each other. And me being on this trip, whenever I was going to an area where I knew somebody was from, I tried to put it on Facebook, like, okay, our next place that we're going to is here. Anybody live in this area, hit me up. And I get these, you know texts from people, oh, come see me, come see me. If that doesn't make you feel good, that people want to see you outside of the normal place that you would see each other, and they're willing to, you know, work around their life to see, like in El Paso, Laura Hernandez and her husband, we're just driving through. Oh, let's have lunch. We got the camper, we're towing, we got to figure out a place where we can land it. You
Yeah.
know, we go to this local place that we would never have probably gone to. Amazing. And then they even paid for us. It's like, I mean, you can't. It's amazing. You just, if we never had the camp, we would have never had that experience.
Yeah.
And it adds. Would like to think, it adds to their life too, because people always say they're living vicariously through us.
Yeah.
In our travels, and for them to be mentioned in the blog, they get a kick out of it.
Yeah.
And pictures and stuff. And now that we're over a year into it, I'm getting the memory pop up from Google Photos, and then I send it to them. It's like, oh, this time last year we were visiting you, and oh my God, it's just so cool. It really is.
Yeah. It is. And that's been one of the biggest blessings for me, coaching for as long as I did. I've got players that are now scattered throughout the country, and being able to connect with them in our travels and, see them now as young men and young women, is such a blessing. And it's,
Yeah,
for me and Sandy, I mean, it's incredible. And like you said, it's kind of funny when you're coordinating it. It's like, well, wherever we're going to have dinner or lunch, just make sure there's a parking lot big enough to get a 33-foot RV,
yeah. I know. Yours
and
is harder
all,
than ours.
yeah. But when you get together, it's like, I've gotten together with guys that I hadn't seen in, 20 plus years. Like this past summer when we were in Colorado, one of my players from the 90s lives out there now, and we were in Fort Collins, and he lives like 45 minutes from Fort Collins, and he drove 45 minutes, from where he was to get to Fort Collins. And we picked up like we just seen each other yesterday, and it's
Yeah,
it's
I
amazing that
know.
bond that the sport, you know, will build between, you know, players
Yes.
and their teammates and coaches and their players. It's like you said, you can't really put it into words unless it's something that you experience. And that's one of the things I'd love about, just sports in general, is just that
Yeah.
bond, that literal lifelong bond that you can
Yeah.
build by being out there and getting dirty and working on the same goal for 9 innings at a
Yeah.
time. It's just so cool. So I feel that that's something that sports gives us that nothing else can, for
Right.
sure.
Right. Yeah. So awesome.
Yeah.
It's really been. I pinched myself. I would wake up in the camper, and I just loved that camper. I don't know what about it. I just loved it. And I would wake up and I would literally pinch myself. Like, I can't believe we've been doing this. And we were so fortunate. We didn't really have any major problems and,
Yeah.
breakdowns and stuff like that. I mean, horror stories, nothing like that. We were so fortunate. Everything went, and Jeff is just a great planner, but yet being able to, you know, do different things. If something else comes up, we can, you know, we can we can swap things out.
Right.
We had that flexibility. Um, the thing that was the most difficult is making sure that you had places to be, because I think COVID, everybody started looking into camping,
Yeah.
and it filled up a lot of slots. So you really had to plan things far enough in advance. So that was kind of a bummer. And we boondocked just a few times. We were planning on boondocking more because we have the adventure package with the solar and all this stuff, and we totally could boondock, but I wasn't into it. I was
Yeah.
like, no, I want to have, and he's working on the road, a little bit. We had Starlink, but we wanted to have the basic necessities and at our disposal. So, but oh my God, it was really incredible. And the people that with families out there and homeschooling, and they travel in pods together from one place to the next, and they have their own little community. And you're watching these kids, they're not on the electronics, they're out playing basketball or swimming and on their bikes and just more in a natural state. And it's just
Yeah.
heartwarming to see. It really was.
Yeah. Yeah. To see these families, it's just what you said. It's heartwarming to see because they're not walking around on their phone,
Yeah,
24/7. They're out on a trail, they're getting dirty, and
yeah,
they're getting an experience that is
right.
unlike any other. So,
Unlike any other.
yeah. So, you know, we'll start to wrap things up here, but is there anything that you think we missed talking about that you think would be valuable to the listeners before we wrap up?
I don't know. I don't know. Just go and do what your passion inside you. Keep exploring different things. You won't know you like something unless you try it,
Right.
and just try not to limit yourself and what you're thinking. You think outside the box a little bit. Jeff always used to tell me you can have 10 reasons why not to do something, but you just need one good reason to do something.
Yeah.
Focus on that and put some things in order to try it out. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. But at least you know.
Right.
You don't
Right.
want to have any regrets.
Yeah.
Life is just way too short. I don't
Yeah.
know.
That
That's
question mark is gone if you actually tried it. Like I said, even
yeah.
if you don't like
Yeah.
it, at least you have the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
So cool. I don't know if we'd ever be in a brick and mortar place again for long. I just feel like I just want to spend a month here, spend a month there, maybe not be on the road in a camper, but just keep, getting month rentals someplace
Right.
and immerse myself in a community and a culture, and then, exhaust it and then go on to the next place.
Yeah. 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 I love that. Because like you said, you don't have to just, sell everything and be an RV to live the nomad lifestyle. What you guys are
Yeah.
going to be doing in Italy is a perfect example of another option, where,
Yeah.
like you said, go from rental to rental for, short-term leases and then find
Yeah.
that new spot that you can, enjoy for the next however long. So
And then
it's
cruising too. I mean, there was that 3-year cruise that went to bust, but we were actually thinking about, oh, that could be something to do in the future. Goes to like 120 countries on a cruise ship. 3 years. Could you
wow.
imagine that? The
Wow.
places you would see?
That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. So Tobi, if anybody wants to follow you guys and your travels and this next chapter of Italy, where do they find you? What's the website that they can find you and follow the blog?
Yeah, so it's called the retired nomads.com. It's all one word. And it's funny because a gal, we did a trivia game one time and we used that as our team name. So we wrote it down. She's looking at it. She's like, they're tired nomads? I'm like, all right, yeah, there could be that. But no, it's the retired nomads.
That's
So
funny.
I thought that was really funny. I was like, yeah, sometimes we are pretty tired, but
Yeah. but it's for a good reason. It's because you
Yeah,
just went out and
yeah.
explored something all day long, and you're
Oh my
tired from
God, it's
walking
so
around.
funny. But
So
yeah, we will be starting it up in full force again once then we head off to Italy. We took a little break, but all the information's out there, all of our journals that we did over the course of the 12 months, really. And then we got tons of pictures. Jeff was a photographer, so he takes amazing pictures.
yeah,
And yeah, so if
I
you're ever
love it.
going to explore a place, you can go check out that place, see what we did, and maybe
There you
get
go.
some ideas of what to do.
There you go. I love it. So, Toby, that brings us to our final question. As you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places. And that comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song, Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things, then the whole world changes. So it's one of the little things that Toby does on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place.
Well, I was trying to give that some thought. And I think, well, for me personally, I really have been trying to do my meditation daily. I find that when I meditate, I'm more at peace with myself. My anxiety levels go down. And you would think, oh, you're in a camper, you're having time of your life. What do you have to be anxious about? But I think that's my internal nature is to be in like that race mode. So that kind of calms me down. And when I'm calmer, it helps with the relationships that you have. And so it's a win-win. And so that I think is very important for me to make sure I have a priority over. And then I also, as a side note, I don't do this on a daily basis, but I try to give blood when I'm able to. So I've given blood in like Mobile, Alabama, Bend, Oregon, Grand Rapids, so whenever I become eligible to give blood, I look for a blood drive and do that and try to give back to communities in
Yeah,
that way as I can. So those are the two things that I try to do
I love that.
religiously. So yeah.
Love it. Toby, I really appreciate you taking the time. Again, I wish we could have connected in St. Augustine, but it wasn't in the cards. We still got
Well,
the
come
show.
out to Italy.
can't can't drive there, and unlike you, I'm not a fan of flying, but
Uh-oh.
you've done it your whole life. I said since we've started RVing, I don't know that I'll ever get on a plane again, but who knows?
Oh
You
God.
never know. You can never say never, right? But I really appreciate you taking the time. This is a lot of fun. I wish
That
you the
was a
best
blast.
on this next chapter of your journey in Italy. Sounds super exciting. And for those out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com. Or there, pick up a copy of one of my books. And again, Toby, thanks so much for the time. This is a great
Thank
conversation.
you. Thank you. This is amazing. I love talking about this with you. Thank you so much.
You bet.